All right. Welcome back to the Fogdog and Basten podcast. A lot's happened in this last week. I've had my second race of the year. Fogg, you had your first race of the year opening up, and a lot of stuff's happening across the country. And I feel like just this last episode, we talked about how, nobody's really running that fast yet. Well, yeah, that kind of all changed overnight. I feel like, man, I took one weekend off and everyone just went absolutely crazy and a lot of moments of panic, but now's time as an athlete where you really got to just focus in and focus on yourself and just know how you're doing. But let's just go back to my 800. I'll talk about it
Yeah.
for a little bit. 148, obviously, which was pretty solid. Like
Mm.
a pretty solid effort. I'm pretty sure the last time we were on the podcast, so like a week and a half ago, I just said, hey, like if it's in the 148, it's a solid day. Like in the 147 is a great day. 149, not a great day. And it was 148 high, like 148.9 something.
Dip
So
under. Ah,
yeah, I dipped under 149 to keep it on my expectations. But man, that was the hardest I've ever had to work for an average 800 time, I guess. Like, man, that was rough. Like,
yeah. I think, yeah, you say average 800 time, but I think 148 high is pretty good when the 800 isn't your main event. It probably wouldn't end up qualifying for indoor nationals. I don't know what it'll end up taking, but I think it's a pretty solid outing for, the mile being your main event. Yeah, it was funny. We had a workout and Corey, my coach, was saying, "Oh, Basten had a pretty solid run. He must be pretty happy with that." And I said, "Yeah, I think he's all right with it." But Corey was kind of shocked that you weren't like over the moon with 148 high, which kind of goes to show that you're in a good spot, not being super happy with running sub 149 as a miler. When you never even run the 800, like that's your second 800 in a long time. So
yeah.
yeah, I'd say it's a pretty solid one. Flat track as well at Iowa State. A
Yeah,
generous flat
seriously.
track, but
It was a solid day to be honest, but man, like I kind of just like they really took me to school, like those guys in the 800. Like I was before into my head, I was like, yeah, like that first 800 was just like a fluke bad day. Like I'm gonna come in here and like I'm gonna run 148 like and I'm gonna destroy all these Iowa State guys and like
yeah,
it
easiest.
did not happen.
Yeah.
I went
It's
out
pretty solid.
in my head before and like the goal just going into it was, hey, I'm just gonna commit. Like I'm gonna go out hard. Like I'm not gonna run a 57 first 400. Like we're gonna like run it the way 800 runners run it. And so I went out in 51 high. I
Nice.
was
How'd that
absolutely
feel?
moving.
Was that feeling
Oh,
like
dude,
pretty tough, or did you feel all right?
it felt pretty all right. Like through 300 meters, like 300 meters, it was all right. And then like right when, so we Iowa State's a 300 flat track. So first lap was a 200 and then 500. And right when I crossed that 500 mark, I was like, I honestly don't know how I'm going to finish this race. Like
Yeah.
I just was completely locked up. And Peter Smith, Iowa State's number 2 or 3 800 runner, just jogged by me, and I was like, oh no, this is going to be a blow up day. But I think that's the one thing that like I've really improved upon in the last year is like when it is a bad day, I'm not blowing up. Like
Mhm.
I'm able to like hold it, I guess.
Yeah.
Even though like my legs still feel the same and I feel like I'm completely dying, like those fall aparts like in races just don't happen. Like
Mhm.
in the US final last year, I fell apart. Like in the national final, I fell apart. Like I'm just not falling apart as much, even when I'm feeling like I'm falling apart, which is obviously a great sign of hopefully an improved strength from me. But yeah.
Definitely. I mean, your last 300 was 42 something. Is that right?
Yeah, something like that.
So
Yep.
it's still pretty solid. I mean, to be running like, I don't know, low 56 sort of pace for the last 300 after going out pretty hard, I think that's pretty solid. So is that your 800 career, well, for the year done then? Or will you
I think for sure for indoor. Yeah, I'll probably do it again during outdoor because I think we have a separate school record for the outdoor one too. And I know I'm not going to get your 3K record. I'm not even going to try. Um, So I want to leave with as many records as possible. So I'm hoping to just get the miles and the 800 ones.
Yeah. I think my outdoor 1500 is quaking in its boots right now. I still
What is
have
it?
it, don't I? I'm still
Yeah,
hanging on.
you do. I
338.15 from that
I asked
one day.
Jay if my run from USA's counts, but
Uh,
it doesn't, and it's slower than yours. It's by like point one or something.
oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah, my decimals.
338.15. So I think
Yeah,
I'll be surprised if that makes it through the season. That's for sure. But that was from that night at Brian Clay in California. What a trip. What
think
a
about how
trip.
much faster you could have run that
Yeah.
day.
Yep.
Oh,
Leaving the hotel thinking we had plenty of time, and yeah, it crept up on us.
ridiculous.
That's for
So
sure.
that was that 800. That was 2 weeks ago, and then this last weekend I took off, and you opened your season in the 3K. Boston University, the most loaded field I've probably ever seen outside like a world championship race. First
Yeah.
of all, tell us about what it was like racing all those guys. Tell us about what it was like. I mean, losing by 16 seconds, but running an incredible time in the process. Like, just tell us about
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah, yeah. So I'd never been to Boston before. I'd never raced on the track. It's a pretty well-known track for being pretty fast. Like everyone seems to run really fast there. And it was funny because in our final kind of hard workout before I went to Boston, we did it was meant to be 5 sets, but I got through 4 sets of 800 short break 400, and I was struggling to run like 210 at the end for the 800s. It was a really windy day, which definitely played a part. But like I was thinking, man, if I can't run a 210 800 and they're about to go through the mile, the plan was like 404 405. Like I I could just get completely embarrassed here. But over the last couple of weeks, we've been doing a bit more race pace stuff, and I knew that in a race environment, and I was hoping that Boston would give me a helping hand as well. I was pretty sure that I would be in reasonable 3K shape. When we last talked on here, I was saying that I really wanted to run the 7:44:00 European indoor qualifier. And when I was saying that, I was kind of thinking like that's probably out of my reach. Like my PB was 7:51, and 7:44 sounded like a very big stretch. Um, anyway, yeah, cutting to the race basically. It was completely loaded, so I don't want to miss anyone. But the on boys are in there, so Yared Nagoose, Mario Garcia Romo, Sam Atkin from England, who had a really really good run. Drew Bosley, Yassine Abdullah, a few really strong NCAA runners. I'm forgetting quite a few people, but stacked field. Olin Hacker as well. So it was a really strong field, and I knew going into it I was gonna have, I was gonna have my work cut out to be in the top 10. To be honest, I knew it was gonna be a really really tough race, especially when I heard the pacing plan. Hobbs Kessler was in there as well, the young Adidas runner. He's kind of burst onto the scene over the last couple of years. So anyway, yeah, on the start line, they were saying, all right, 403 is the plan through 1600. They said 403, and I was thinking,
Jeez.
this is going to be a grind from lap one. I was thinking, I haven't run a mile that fast for ages. Yeah, anyway, we got going. I kind of settled in pretty close to the back. I think I was in second last early on. And it kind of broke apart pretty quickly. I got stuck. I was purposely running towards the back, but then a couple of gaps opened up in front that I couldn't really do anything about. I ended up being 405 high through 1600, which honestly, it felt pretty good, but I felt like I was running quite hard. And then over the next kind of I guess it got really, really tough. And the gaps had kind of opened up. I was feeling good enough to go around, and I had to kind of bridge the gap and lead my sort of pack that had kind of fallen off. And yeah, long story short, or long story long, I've rambled on a bit, but ended up crossing the line 7:44.14. So I missed the European indoor qualifier by 0.14. Honestly, when I crossed the line, I thought I'd done it, but I hadn't. So yeah, it was really good though. Like a couple of months ago, if I knew that I was going to run 7:44 for my first race of 2023, I would be pretty happy. But as runners, I think we always want that little bit more. And as soon as you run a time, it kind of doesn't sound quite so fast. So hopefully there'll be another opportunity. I mean, there will be, assuming everything goes to plan. In about a week and a half, I'll be going again.
Honestly, though, I feel like a lot of that, like a lot of that stuff in your head, like, oh, it doesn't seem as fast right after you do it, is just because of what some of the other guys in that race did. Like
Yeah.
7:28 is absolutely unheard of. Like I've never in all the years I've followed indoor track, at least like for the last like 3, 4 years, I've never seen someone run 7:28 indoors
No,
as their first meet of the year. Like, does anyone do that?
no, I don't think so, to be honest. I know that, a few guys on the circuit were running close to that or even a little bit quicker outdoor, but like in, diamond leagues where they're outdoor, they've got great pacing all the way. Um, yeah, 7:28 to open the season is pretty impressive. And he was 4:01 through the 1600, I think, and then he kind of took it on. I I think he was 3:31 or 3:30 through 1400, which means his last mile, his last 1600 was well under 4 minutes, probably 3:57, 3:58.
I'm trying to I think of everything in miler terms because I'm a miler, obviously. So I try to think of like what that conversion is. Like it's got to be like 340, what, 347, 348?
As in
I
like
don't know.
7:28
Like,
conversion for a mile.
yeah, like an equivalent mile. Like
I mean, yeah, probably in that range. I mean, it's
it's below.
3:44 for two 1500s back to back. So
Yeah,
it's 4 minute miling. So if you take one of them, I don't know what the exact conversion would be, but the American record is 3:49 indoor in the mile. So 3:48, 3:49, 3:47, something in that range.
just ridiculous.
Wild.
Ridiculous.
It was pretty
I
cool to
mean,
watch from 100 meters back, a little bit more.
pretty cool to be in it, honestly, because even last place in your race ran a phenomenal time. Like you guys were all just so fast.
Yeah,
Like you
yeah,
guys were, I mean, your 3K would be, I think, number 3 in the NCAA right now, or number 4. I checked
yeah. It's up
on
there.
T-First.
It might be down to number 5 or even number 6. Everyone's running so fast. It
Yeah,
maybe it'd be top 4 or 5.
yeah.
But
I mean,
yeah,
either way, like, and you got what, like seventh in that race, sixth in
I
that
was
race, eighth
eighth.
in that race.
Yeah,
So yeah, you got beat by 7 guys when you ran a top 5 time in the country this year. Like
yeah. It's
it's just
crazy.
absolutely ridiculous. Like no,
So,
that was the most loaded field I've ever seen in a
yeah,
non-championship race.
it was weird as well because obviously Yard Nagus ran 7:28, but I crossed the line, and as it is in racing, you're giving it your all. So you cross the line and you're pretty tired. I had no idea what he'd run. I thought, I mean, I knew he'd run quick because I was way back and
Yeah.
he won. So I knew that he had to have run something pretty fast. But when I heard 7:28, I was shocked. Honestly, I thought it would have been like 7:35 or something, like quick, really quick, but not 7:28. That's just like another level.
Yeah.
And yeah, that he wasn't the only one. So Sam Atkin came second. He ran 7:31. He's English. That was a British national record. I think that takes it off Mo Farah, who's a 4-time Olympic gold medalist. So
Jeez.
then Mario ran 7:34. I don't
Yep.
think that's a Spanish national record. At least I didn't hear that it was. But then
Yeah.
Drew Bosley, NAU, 7:36 NCAA record. So Yeah, it was the meet for taking down PBs and records and American records, and yeah,
Yeah.
it was cool to be a part of, that's for sure.
I mean, I thought going into it that there was no way Mario would lose because he just finished fourth in the World Championships, and I was like, nobody's gonna beat Mario. Like, there's no chance.
Yeah.
And like he ran 7:34 and lost by 6 seconds. Like,
Seconds. Yeah. He was just
yeah, I
running
looked at
going straight. That's wild. If
I
you knew
looked at the
he was gonna
results.
run, if you knew he was going to run 7:34 before the race, would you say, yeah, he's won it?
Yeah, there's no way I thought he'd lose. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, unreal. And
Yeah.
then so that all happened at Boston one day, and then the very next day, the Washington meet goes on. And I'm sitting here like, oh, like the NCAA times still aren't crazy, right? Like, oh, it's looking good for a miler this year. Maybe 357 will get in. And then like nine of them, no, that's an exaggeration. Six of them break 356.
Six broke 356.
You
Wow.
know, I
And
think seven did actually, but one of them was Sam Ellis, who doesn't have
uncapped.
indoor eligibility. But yeah, so I think six of them broke 356, led by Joe Wascom and 351.9.
Yeah.
And then Nathan Green 352, or Brian Fay, then Nathan Green. Then I mean they all look the same. They're all insanely good, whatever.
Yeah.
But I mean,
Wild.
yeah,
Just
wild.
crazy. It's yeah. I mean, you don't want to like underestimate how impressive breaking four is, but like with how many people do it nowadays, it's kind of like it just doesn't mean that much anymore. Obviously, it still does. It still is a massive achievement, and it's still really impressive. But like, there's going to be 100 guys who run under 4 minutes in the NCAA this year. Like,
Yeah.
it's just a whole new level, and it's wild because like 355, 3, 4, 5 years ago sounded ridiculous, and obviously that partly is because 3, 4, 5 years ago I was nowhere near. 355 seemed out of reach for me personally, but I feel
Yeah.
like for the whole running world, 355 5 years ago sounded quick. No matter who you are, pretty much.
Yeah.
Whereas now you look at 355 and you kind of think like it's quick, it's solid, but it's not gonna do that much for you, which is
Yeah.
just wild.
I mean, Luke Hauser ran 355 high in that race, and he looked like an afterthought. Like he wasn't even in it.
Yeah,
Like he got completely destroyed by 5 or 6 of his teammates. I mean,
of them.
honestly, going into this season, I honestly thought in my mind, I'm like, all right, there's like every year, you know in the back of your head, all right, there's like 4 or 5 guys that I think could like win this title in the mile, right?
Yeah,
And whether or not I can, I put myself in the list because always bet on yourself, right? We always say that. But
yep,
I mean, after this weekend, it's literally like it's just can anyone beat the Washington boys?
yeah.
Like because it's literally like I mean, Elliot Kipsang still he's only run once this year. You're on an 800 and 151, so he's not looking
Did
quite like
he?
himself yet. Yeah, maybe he'll turn it around, but
I
but
didn't even know that.
ran a
Wow.
pretty bad 800 this last weekend. Thomas Vanapen ran 7:48 in the 3K, which is a solid time. But I mean, compared to what the Washington boys are doing, it means absolutely nothing.
It might not qualify either. I mean, it
Yeah.
748 should, but it wouldn't have done last year. So
Yeah.
yeah,
And you got, those were huge favorites going into the year. You got Adam Spencer from Wisconsin, who rumor has it's injured, not
uh,
running.
I,
I know he pulled out of a race he was supposed to race because he's injured, I guess. So I don't know if he's healthy now, but I mean, that's just another big name that's not racing right now. And like,
yeah, yeah,
so now it's looking like, oh, so the Washington guys are all going to qualify, obviously. Question is how many even do it. And then
yeah,
you get Fouad Messaoudi from Oklahoma State. Sorry if
yeah.
I'm pronouncing that wrong, but he's great to run 353, I think.
354. He
354,
ran
354.
Arkansas at the weekend.
Yeah, sorry. Everyone's running so fast. 354, which is great, and he's a guy that will probably have a chance, I guess. And then now I'm thinking in my head, I really got to get time so that I'm just like so that I'm relevant.
Yeah.
because it's a matter of like, if Washington has an off day, there goes the top 6 guys, literally.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's like, get yourself in there. And then you think of other factors like, hey, nationals are at altitude. How's that going to impact things? And you think, oh, like, does running a 351 high, is that relevant when you're going and racing in a tactical final? And to be honest, it probably is, because Joe Wascom can race tactical finals. He proved that last year when he won.
Yeah.
So it's like, man, like, how do we beat this guy? How do we beat all these guys? And who's good enough to do it? Because
Yeah.
in the back of my mind, I believe I am. I hope I am.
Yeah.
But, and there are probably a lot of other guys that are saying the same thing as I am right now. But it's like, when we get there, can we actually do it?
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah. It's wild. It would be pretty funny if, like, I know that the final Washington sub 4, they had 8 guys break 4. If that was good enough to qualify for nationals, if all 8 of them qualified somehow, I know 359 won't make it this year, but that would be quite funny if half the field was Washington. Like, if 8 of the 16 guys at nationals were wearing the purple of Washington, that would just be so ridiculous. But yeah, I mean, everyone is running pretty fast. It's going to be a fast year. Honestly, like, a couple of months ago before indoor started, like, cross country is always a little bit hard to judge what people are going to do on the track, I think. Obviously, because it's nothing like running on an indoor track. But I didn't think it would be as quick as last year. And maybe the depth won't be quite the same. But in terms of, like, the top end, it is as strong as it's ever been. And
it
could end up being 355 for the 3K. It could end up being 746, 747, which is just mad. We should also mention, on the topic of everyone running fast, we kind of blew past it just because so much has happened, but also the American 5K record went down at Boston. Woody Kincaid, 12:51. Joe Klecker in second, 12:54. It was quite funny being there in person and watching it, because, like, I feel like pretty much everyone there was, like, getting around Joe Klecker, like, wanting him to break 13, maybe break the American record. And he was having a great run. He was doing a lot of the work. He had Ollie Hoare pacing him until 2 miles. I think he went 3.2K. Then he kind of was on his own. He was really pushing the pace along. And it was funny, in the last lap, it was clear they were going to run something fast. Woody was, like, dropped. Joe was on his own. Everyone's cheering for Joe. All of a sudden, Woody comes through, and it's like everyone just jumps shit. Like, go Joe, go Joe. They see Woody come past him, and everyone's suddenly a big Woody fan. So, but no, it was incredible to watch. That was pretty cool. I was in the home straight when they came through, and yeah, it was just pretty wild. 12:51 is pretty mad. 234 per K, probably 406, 407 miling. Wild.
Jeez.
But yeah, it was good.
What is better? What's considered better? Like, I mean, who cares anyway, but what would be considered better IAAF wise, the 12:51 or the 7:28?
I have no idea, but if I had to guess, I would probably say Yared 7:28.
Okay.
I'm basing that on, I know indoor and outdoor aren't the same thing, but the outdoor 3K record is 7:20, around 7:28, 8 seconds. If you, like, do the maths and get the equivalent percentage, maybe that's worth 13 seconds over 5K. The outdoor 5K record is 12:35. Woody around 12:51, so he's like 16 seconds outside it. That, I don't know. I don't know if that's the right way of going about it, being like, how far are they off the world records? Because I don't actually know what the indoor world records are for 3K or 5K.
Yeah.
But I mean, they're both so fast.
Yeah, they're both insane. I don't know. Just curious, honestly, because everyone's talking about this yard race. I feel like people are sleeping on Woody's race, which is crazy because
Yeah.
12:51 is. I mean, I didn't even think of it like when we were talking about the Boston races, and then you mentioned it, and I was like, oh crap, yeah, 12:51 was just running. I didn't even. Unbelievable.
It is
Just a
crazy.
weekend with unbelievable times.
Yeah, yep. Mad. But yeah, that kind of covers, I think, what happened over the weekend. Maybe there was some other wild stuff. I don't think there was too much going on. Uh, there were probably plenty of meets, but that's kind of the top end, the stuff that really stood out. What's next for you?
So this weekend I'm racing at Iowa State, and I'm finally dropping the 800 from my radar and focusing on the mile. And I don't know. So I'm going to Boston not this weekend, but the weekend afterwards to really like give my one true shot at like a solid fast time in a qualifier. But I mean it's nice to get 1 mile in before you attempt your big one, you
Yeah.
know? So
Mhm.
this weekend we're gonna run a mile, see if we can just get a qualifier out of the way so that Boston is stress free. And
Yeah.
then just like hopefully a confidence builder, right? Like I don't want to be going to Iowa State running 402. Like, it's like hopefully I've developed enough strength, enough consistency over the last year and a half now that I can go in and even if I'm not feeling great, go run like 356, right? Like it's just
Yeah.
hopefully I'm at the point now where I'm good enough to run a qualifier in a non-perfect field, right? Because obviously like I know, hey, like running a 351 like Joe Oskin did is pretty much out of the question this weekend when it's not a perfect field. There aren't other guys that can do that in the field. But
Yep.
it's like, hey, no matter what field I'm in, as long as I'm pace for 1258 or not 12, 258 through 1200, like in what world can I not close in 58 and run 356?
Yeah.
So it's like, hey, like let's get this done and let's prove that in non-perfect situations I can still just get my qualifier out of the way.
Yeah.
So
No,
we'll
it'll be
see.
good. And it's nice being at Iowa State because I mean, even if the field isn't great, it's nice that you just wake up, you're in your own bed the night before, you travel half an hour, 40 minutes up the road. So there's a lot of good things about racing at Iowa State. You know the track well, and I guess as well when I was like trying to run a mile qualifier last year, obviously you were witnessing it firsthand, the nightmare it ended up being. But what you might find this weekend, and what I found quite a lot last year, is like if if there's a pacemaker and not loads of other guys who are going to be really having a crack, you can find yourself comfy, you get in a good spot, you aren't going to have people kind of jostling, you're not going to have people trying to, get in front of you, hopefully. You should have a nice, few laps behind a pacemaker. You can just watch them, not worry about time, just focus on them. And then when it comes to it, they pull out, and all you have to do is run, hopefully a 58, 57, which will be hard. Obviously, it's not going to be easy. I'm not trying to downplay it, but um, you know, it can work quite nicely just knowing that you are going to be the one putting that work in and being at the front, probably behind the pacemaker. Yeah,
Yeah. So yeah, the goal is to run a qualifier. Obviously, it's not the end of the world if I don't get one because going to Boston the next weekend, but it'd be nice to get it out of the way and to restore complete faith in myself that I can do this. And to anyone that's Team Isaacer, yeah, let's go get it.
nice. Yeah,
So when it comes to you, I think we covered me pretty well. Iowa State this weekend. When it comes to you, you're taking this weekend off, correct? And then
yeah,
and then we're reuniting in Boston
yep, yep,
next weekend for you're racing the 3K, going
yep,
for that European qualifier. I'll be in the mile. we're gonna have to do something, right? Like,
Yeah. Well, I was gonna say we should film an in-person pod, but easier said than done. Like we're just recording on Zoom these days. Like, dude, the microphones that we used to use are still at Drake. They're in Chris's apartment because I have a
are
load
they
of
really?
yeah. Because I still have like 3, 4 big bags of old rubbish. Well, most of it isn't rubbish, but a load of my old stuff. I think including like I don't know, all American like trophies, like whatever.
What?
I only have one, but like all of that stuff is at Chris's apartment. So
Jeez.
yeah, I don't know. Oh well, at least we'll be able to catch up. It will be good to
Yeah.
we'll have to do something, but that's the
I'll,
plan.
I'll I'll
3K.
do the intro with you for the Fog Dog exclusive.
Yes, brilliant. Oh, the
We'll do
people will
something.
love it. It's been too long. Um, but yeah, so I was 0.14 outside the Euro indoor qualifier last weekend. Um, and the plan is to go to Boston and run 0.14 of a second quicker, but not only do that, but get comfortably under it. I'm not going to go there and try and run 7:44 flat, because maybe mentally that's what I was trying to do in Boston this time. I think I should go in with, I've now opened my season. The first one I feel like, I don't want to say it's a rust buster going and running like 7:44, but it kind of is within reason. Like it's the first time feeling that track burn in such a long time.
Yep.
So hopefully I can go and run a little bit quicker. Um, you know, who knows what will happen on the day? I could feel rubbish. I could feel incredible. But yeah, all I want to do is get under that European indoor qualifier. And then straight after Boston, I'm going to go back home to England. The British indoor champs are the week after that. So I think the Boston race is Feb 11, and then British 3K champs the 19th. So I'll probably
Oh
fly.
wow.
Yeah, I'll probably fly back the next day. It's not too bad of a travel. Yeah, 7, 8 hour flight or something. So could be a lot worse. And then running under the qualifier doesn't guarantee selection. Obviously, you then have to race well at trials. It doesn't look like at this stage too many people have the qualifier, as in literally only Sam Atkin has got it this year. So I'm currently ranked second for the UK for Great Britain. But a lot can change. There's still going to be people racing over the next few weeks and stuff. So yeah, the goal in an ideal world, I'll run the qualifier next week and then race well at British champs and secure a spot on the team for European indoors. That would be a really big step for me. I haven't really run internationally before, haven't really made international teams. I mean, I kind of made one for Australia when I was 18, but that doesn't really count. It was a bit of a silly kind of Oceania competition that didn't particularly mean a lot. So this would be a big one to make. So we'll see.
Do you have to have the standard to run at Euros? So like, can you, if you get second at British trials and let's say you don't run the standard, do they just not take you?
They still can. So if you've run under 750 point something, you can be considered. You have to have run under 750 point whatever to at least be considered. But if you don't have the qualifier, if you're in the top two, you put yourself in a pretty good spot. It's kind of like up to the selectors. If two guys have the qualifier and they go 1-2 at champs, they're both going, guaranteed. If one guy has a qualifier and is in the top two, he's going for sure. And then I think the other spot is kind of up to the selectors, depending on form and head-to-heads and PVs and all that sort of stuff. So technically, yeah, you can go without the qualifier, but yeah, I want to get the qualifier to make it a little bit more secure. But even having the qualifier, running at British champs, like racing at British champs, is going to be tough. It's going to be a strong field. I know that for sure. British middle distance and distance running is pretty strong right now.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's not going to be a walk in the park, that's for sure, even with the qualifier. So we'll see. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
So should be good fun. But yeah, it'd be nice to be back in Boston again, back on that track.
Yeah. Tell me about that track. Is there a secret to it? Why does everyone run so fast on it? Is the bank genuinely different than other tracks? Do you notice anything?
um,
Or
I mean, everyone runs fast there. I honestly, I think the bank isn't much steeper than most indoor tracks that I've run on, to be honest. I guess I've only run on probably 3 or 4 banked 200 tracks, being Arkansas, Chicago, Boston, and maybe one other. I feel like
the
that's
one we ran out at indoor nationals?
oh, and Alabama. I can't count that for myself. I walked there. I don't know if that
You're
was
at like 401.
yeah. But yeah, I definitely steeper than Alabama for sure. That was like that felt flat, to be honest.
There was no bank on that. Yeah, that
Yeah,
was a joke.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But probably similar to Arkansas, similar to Nebraska, similar to Chicago, where we had indoor conference. But there is something about it, like when we were jogging around, you know how a lot of indoor tracks, like Arkansas, have like a track around the indoor track.
Yeah.
Like it's like flat for warming up or doing strides or just for walking around on. That we did our pre-meet for a little bit on there the day before. And when you're jogging on that, it feels like concrete, even though it is covered in track surface. And Willie, my teammate, he was like, just have a few, like take a few steps on the track, like just jogging. Not even on the bank. And I went onto the straight, just jogged a little bit, and you feel it. Like there's something underneath it that does something for sure. But
Huh.
I don't want to like overstate how good it is. It is really nice, but like I don't want to say my 744 is worth like 844. It's like I still think if you run a fast time there, you can claim that time. It's not like an altitude conversion where if you run 5 minutes in the mile, you're suddenly a sub 4 miler. Um,
Dude, those
but
altitude conversions, man. Oh,
but it it's good. It's quick.
yeah.
But again, don't turn up thinking like the track's gonna do everything for you. You still have to run fast, but it's nice. It is nice. In saying that though, people do still have bad days there. Like people can blow up and absolutely bad days can happen. Not everyone leaves Boston feeling happy. But I would say a good majority leave
Yeah.
Boston feeling happy.
I was gonna say I was kind of just hoping the track would do everything for me and just show up for like an easy jog, run like
Yeah.
a 340 mile,
Yeah.
and
Go
then
out,
get out of there.
feel like you're running 7 minute pace and you end up breaking 4. That's when you know there's something seriously wrong with the track. But
Nah, but it's weird because these tracks are like 200 bank tracks, right? Like, and Nebraska's bank feels similar to Arkansas's bank. Granted, I can't compare it to Boston's banks. I haven't been there yet, but like, why is Nebraska so much slower than Arkansas? Because it is
yeah,
like when I'm running in Arkansas, my legs feel so much better than when I'm running at Nebraska.
yeah, I do agree. I mean, my only experience running the mile in Nebraska was not enjoyable. With 100 to go, I got tripped, fell so hard, kissed the track. Um, yeah, I don't know. I think like the actual steepness of the Boston track, maybe it is steeper, but it's not like you walk in and it's like a velodrome, indoor cycling
Yes.
tracks. Like they're like walls. But I don't know. I think it's something to do with what's underneath, I think. It's a nice
Huh.
track. But maybe Arkansas has something similar. Because I know Arkansas is well, they call it the fastest track in the world.
I mean, it's not.
Now that I've been to Boston, I'm not sure if Arkansas is quicker.
I mean, you literally just look at the times people run on
Yeah,
Boston, and you can't even debate it. Like
yeah.
Boston's faster than every outdoor track in the world.
Yeah, I agree. The funny thing is, like, indoor tracks are worth so much more in terms of like IAAF points, like points that come purely from the times you run, not points from like ranking or whatever, but points that
Yeah.
come from time. If you run like a 4 minute mile indoor, it's worth so much more than a 4 minute mile outdoor. But if you run it at
Yeah.
Boston, like I think that's like yeah, it's nice.
Yeah.
So
Or
yeah,
if
I
you run
guess
it on a or if you run it on a 300 flat track with no rail.
yeah. Is there no rail at Iowa State these days?
No, I was talking about a different track, but yeah.
Oh, nice. Yeah, yeah. Nice. But,
No, just all jokes, but yeah.
I mean, you'll find out for yourself. You'll get a taste of Boston in a week and a half. I'm looking
Exactly.
forward to seeing that race. I guess I think the mile is before the 3K, so I'll be watching, but I'll be well, a little bit nervous. I'll be getting ready to race myself. But
Hopefully if I'm done with my outside throwing up after every race that I do,
yeah,
I'll be able to catch yours.
yeah, should be
I
good.
should be able to. They have like 75 heats of every event in Boston. It's ridiculous.
It's mad. It is very busy. Like warming up and warming down and doing your strides and just everything is it's pretty hectic. But
Yeah. Dude,
the
last
good,
weekend they had like 22 heats of the
yeah,
mile.
yeah, it's pretty wild. The good thing is though, being like in the quicker heats, it you they do fast first. So the quickest heat goes first, which means they can go off schedule. They definitely can go behind, but they won't go more than like 10 minutes ahead. So as long as you're like ready to go, if you're in one of the, kind of faster heats,
Mhm.
you should be all right with your scheduling and stuff. If you're in the 20th heat, I wouldn't have a clue when to warm up because who knows what's going to happen. What if every heat someone breaks their leg?
Yeah,
Like
literally.
you're going to be there till the next morning. So
They're like the mile starts at 6:30 and then the next event starts at 9. You're like,
yeah,
all right, well, I'm heat 13. Like when do I warm
yeah,
up?
yeah. No, it definitely can be a little bit confusing, but
Oh, yeah.
should be all good.
Hopefully I'm in one of the top three heats. Just
Fingers
we'll
crossed.
see.
Yeah, who knows?
Yeah.
If you run a 5 minute mile this weekend at Iowa State, they might bump you down a little bit. But
Yeah.
I'd
Hopefully I'll
say
break 7.
I'd say there's a reasonable chance that you'll be in the top one. Yeah, I'd be
For
surprised.
sure, for sure top 2. For sure top 2.
Yeah, you should
Yeah.
be in the top one. Um,
The only way I wouldn't be is if like literally it's like your 3K heat and it's just like all pros that are
yeah,
insane.
yeah.
But hopefully even so they let a guy like me in there, but you just never know. But
Actually, a couple of our guys are racing the mile. Casey Comer, 354 mile, and John Renowicki. Um, I don't know if he's
what's
broken.
genre? Has he broke 4?
I don't think on the track, but he has on the road. So,
Uh, so yeah, he'll probably break 4.
um, yeah, I would say there's a pretty good chance that they'll both break four. I mean they should be capable, but you just never know.
We got to get those boys on someday. We got to do a pod with the entire UA team.
Yes, yeah, get them all on here. Just a massive Zoom group call.
It's a massive call.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But
Oh
no,
man.
good stuff.
Well, I think that pretty much wraps up everything we had to talk about. But we'll probably not going to do a live one in Boston. It'll probably be pretty hectic, but
Yeah,
we'll for sure catch up and do another episode after we both race this next weekend. Hopefully, we come on here next time. You have a Euros qualifier, and I have a
you're.
national qualifier, but
Yep,
you never know. So I guess you'll have to stay tuned to find out.
yep. Hopefully, fingers crossed, all goes well the next couple of weeks. You'll have two races to talk about, I guess, because you'll race
Yeah, I
one
will.
this weekend and next weekend. So, yep. It'll be good. Looking forward to it. It'll be good to catch up. As always, if you got comments and questions that you want us to talk about, actually, that's one thing we didn't cover, but now at this stage, we probably won't. But for the next episode, let's plan on covering any questions that we get. So if you have questions, I know that there were a few left on the last podcast on YouTube. Comment them on the YouTube video. We'll go through the last couple of videos and see any questions, and that will be a priority for the next video. Honestly, it just completely slipped my mind for this one, but I feel like we've had quite a bit to talk about. We will get to those in the next one. So if you have any, drop them on the YouTube video.
Perfect. Peace out. Sounds good.
Sweet. Thank you, everyone. See you next time.